Hey, in this YouTube video I'm going to review Learning Alteryx. It's an ebook on Amazon that I bought, and it's about like 200 pages, and you can read it on Kindle. So it basically introduces you to this program Alteryx. You can copy this link from my YouTube description and go to this website, and you basically just click over here and you download Alteryx, and it's a free download for 14 days trial. Alteryx is a program for data visualization, combining data, and separating data for statistical analysis. So basically you fill it out, you put your name there, you select over here, download now, and then when you download it, I selected Alteryx Designer with R-based predictive tools, and press next. And then you click start free trial once you open it up. And here's what the program basically looks like. So I'm just going to show you the data that I work with. There are two Excel files. One's a CSV file and one is a normal Excel file, Excel SX extension. So here's the two data files I'll show you before I go into Alteryx, because you can't have the files open while you're working with Alteryx. So it's basically just like it has like years, it has states, state abbreviations, and it has like different topics like alcohol or diabetes or different US chronic diseases, and it has like statistics regarding them, and so it's basic data, which is mostly states, cities. Let me close out those files. So here's what a basic Alteryx workflow looks like. So I mean, I'll go over like the basic terminology for like an Alteryx program. On the left hand side you have the configuration area, where you can access like the layout design, like if you want your screen horizontal or vertical. You could switch to the macros or the analytic apps over here, and you could enable events that execute when certain things happen. So left hand side's configuration. Whenever you're like working with like one of the tool palette apps on like the side, you can basically look at the configuration area and change your settings for each of the apps to get however you want it to be. So right here, this like white area, this white space area, this is the canvas. This is what's known as the canvas area, where you basically drag and drop tools from the tool palette up here onto the canvas, and they connect together and form like a nice little, this is called a workflow. And you basically can like piece together, like filter data, take random samples of data, select certain data, filter by certain conditions, and you could also join tables together. You can union tables together. You can summarize data. So I'm just gonna go over like just this workflow right here, this first one. So basically, here is up here in the tool palette, you have in, out, preparation, join, favorites. You could add different stuff to your favorites too. But here's the most commonly used one. You basically, the in, out, you drag it over here. Here's input data, and then you click over here and you select, go to files, browse, and here's the data I'm working with. It's from the Alteryx book. So the Alteryx book that I downloaded was Learning Alteryx, PACKT. That website has the download files for this book. You just have to sign up for a free trial and then cancel, and you can download the files and follow along. So here is the files, and basically you connect the data file to the input data, and in this case it's a CSV. It basically auto detects everything. So here's the auto field tool. you just drag that down from up here and it'll connect to the input data. Let me just like visualize that over here. So there I just connected to the file, and here is autofield data. So, and then let me add like a browse. So right now you see like the results down here at the bottom, there's really nothing. But when I click this run button, run workflow, so it basically just executes all the different tools on the canvas, and then it'll have everything down here. So once you execute run the workflow, this autofield tool, what it does is it adds an auto category data type to each of the fields. So it gives like location, abbreviation, it's a string, and 2, because the states, they have abbreviations with 2 letters. And then here's a variable string, so the amount of string data, like characters in it, can vary. And then here's like a double, which is just like a number, like an integer that has a lot of decimal points. And when you add the browse tool to anything, you could basically view either the charts or the tables or the data. So let me just delete that out. Like once you add the autofield tool and then you click run, that's when. So over here, I have like a random sample tool. So that's on the preparation tab up here, random sample. Just drag it down here and connect to the autofield. And I selected random and percentage of records. So I wanted to take random 10% of the total amount of records from the Florida local data for better health. And so that just takes 10% of the total amount of records in the table. And every time I click run, it just takes another 10%. So it's a good way to take random samples. And then that's I guess what's really cool about this program is just working with like random samples and statistics. So basically over here, I took the unique tool up here from preparation. I dragged it down here. See how it has U and D right there? So U indicates unique and D equals duplicates. So over here, if you click on any of the tools and you open the example, they actually have like descriptions of the tools, so you can read a little bit more about each of the tools if you want to. It just opens up a workflow. You close the workflow. Like you can just keep opening the examples and just reading about each of the different tools. So here I took unique because I wanted to work with only the unique files or the unique records within the random sample. And then over here, I took the select records, and I only wanted to take the random sample from the ranges. I only wanted 1 through 650 of that 10% random sample. So let's see, Florida local data for better health. Let me just open up this file, see how many records it has. So it has 39,026. So 10% of that is about like 3,000. But what the select records does is it only takes the first 650 of the records. So I want to see like 650 of the 10%. And then let's see, this imputation, which is up here on the preparation tool. Let's see, this is, where is it? Oh, it's right here. You just drag imputation down, put it right next to the select records. And what the imputation does is it replaces the nulls with the average. So anything in data value that doesn't have a value, it's just blank and has a null, you just want to replace that with the average. So you can kind of like I don't know, like modify the nulls so that it doesn't like skew your statistics in a meaningful way. Like if you want to work with the values and you don't want like any zeros in there. And I mean, like the filter tools also, you could include an is null in order to only include stuff that isn't null in your statistics, so you don't accidentally skew your data. And then over here, I got like I think this is a sort. Yeah, up here sort. So you could sort the fields descending or ascending order. And then here's like a data cleansing. So with data cleansing, you can remove the null rows, you can remove the null columns, you could select which fields you want to apply the null removings to, and you can replace the nulls with blanks, you could replace them with 0, and you can also remove like unwanted characters like spaces and stuff. And then here is a select. So select, you can just select only the fields that you want. You just put a checkbox next to them, and only the fields or columns that you want to show in the data will show. So it'll process a little bit faster if you work with less columns. And then here is a filter. I used a custom filter in this case. The basic filter will just select a certain column and then equals and then whatever value you type. But I did a custom filter here, and I did with the year equal to 2014, and the city name is equal to Clearwater, and or the city name is equal to Fort Lauderdale. So over here, similar to how the unique has unique and duplicates, the filter, it has true and false. So I added a browse to the true and a browse to the false. So when I click run, what this does is it executes all these tools over here, and then here's the final result is the browse. So I scroll down here, I'm on metadata, so here's data, you click data over here, and it has all the Clearwaters and all the Fort Lauderdales. So, and that year has to be 2014 based on the filter. And this is based on a random 10% of the 39,000 rows, and it only includes unique records, and it doesn't include nulls, and it only includes year 2014 as the true. And also this select record, it selects ranges 1 through 650 out of this random sample of 3,000 records. So basically, notice how it says it has 55 records, but if I click run again, now it has 58 records. And the reason that the amount of records changes is because it's a random sample of 10%, and basically that random sample can change every single time. The amount of records can change that are true, and then because it's random, and then also the select records only selects the 1 through 650. So overall, you're only going to get 650 records each time because of the select records. It narrows down the total amount of records to 650. So notice over here it's 58, and this is 592. Add that together, it's 650. And then let's see, I'll run it again. And this is 57. This is 593. So it always adds up to 650. It just sometimes it'll have more that are true, and sometimes it'll have more that are false. So it's a good way to just like run something a lot, and you can kind of test like a result a few times. So let's see what else I did on this. I also did a join, which I connected to the select over here. I did a left join and then I did a right join to the Florida Better Health Age query. So what I joined them both on was I joined them on city name because they both had the column city name within them. And here was the output of that. So basically there are 650 records here, and this includes all of the city names that are similar between the two of them and all of the records associated with this random sample. So basically you have like 19 Boca Ratones. If I click up here, then I could see like on the configuration side, I could see like the value by count for each of the different cities. So see Boca Raton, see I have 19. And you see how many are null. Obviously none are null because you replaced the nulls with the average, and you get all the different statistics over here. So I also take the select records and I did a join multiple, and in that case I joined this input, and this input into this filter over here. And let me add browsers to the filter. So what this filter is doing is it does for anything that isn't null for the year, and the population over 90,000 has to say yes, and the average age has to be greater than 51, greater than or equal to 51, and the average age has to be less than or equal to 69. So I click run here, and here's like all the average ages. They're all greater than 51 or less than 69. And obviously 279 and 382. That's a 661 records. So that's it has like 11 duplicate records within it. And then here's combining data using union. So this has like the data over here, and then you put a union, and then here's the result. So I mean, like, did I click run? So basically, what the union does in Alteryx is it like appends the multiple data sources, and did I select like the columns over here? And it just like puts like all the columns together. I forget exactly what the union does. I don't know. I've done unions in Access before. So here is, I'm just going to go to another example in the book. So here is an input data, the US chronic diseases, and then here is the auto field, and here's the formula. So when you add a formula, let me just drag that over here. You can click here and you click add column, and then you just name the column here, and then you just start entering like whatever you need to enter over here to get a formula. And then if you want to add another formula, you click down here, click add column, and then type stuff there, and you can write another one. You could add another. You could add a lot of formulas, and then you could just delete the formulas like that. So over here, I'm just going to go through a few different formulas that I did. So what this USCDI does is it adds a new column called data source, and it just makes the new column USCDI. So I'm just going to show that over here. So here's the data source USCDI. So it adds USCDI as a value. Here is the next formula. The next formula is uppercase location description. So it adds it. It's like the Excel formula upper, and notice how all these are uppercase now. The location description. So that's what that does. Here is contains topic diabetes, and so we only filter by stuff that in the topic it mentions diabetes. Let's see. I don't know. Oh, yeah, and then here's the data type is Boolean, so it's true or false. So let's see where that one is. Contains diabetes. So it puts false if this column over here, topic, see it just says alcohol. So it just puts false there. Let me just scroll down to where diabetes is. Here's like a diabetes one. So I'll scroll over to contains diabetes, and of course it says true there. So this formula it's like an if statement, and it creates a column with the Boolean, and it's either true or false. So here is another column. It's called length question. So this just basically, a lot of this video is just learning all the different tools in here. It's just like a basic. I think everything in Excel VBA definitely is way better than this program, but I mean, I could see how this program could be useful with like the weighted averages and stuff, and the statistics, and just like the random samples. But yeah, here's like the functionality of the formulas. So the length of the question, it just tells you how many characters are in the question column. So here's a way to basically assign a value based on another value. So if this column has a value overall, then it assigns this new column category type main category. Otherwise, it assigns it a non-main category. So it's kind of like Boolean, except you get to pick what the name is instead of true and false. It says main category or non-main category based on the formula. So here's a data value percentage. So if the data value unit column, I don't even know. If it contains like a percentage in it, and it's not null, and the data value isn't null, then the data value gets concatenated with the percentage sign. Otherwise, you want just the data value. So here's the data value percentage. I guess that's just how you can like kind of format stuff. So here's data value percentage. So we find the data value. See, it's like 22, and data value unit is percentage. So being that this isn't null and this is a percentage, what it does is it concatenates that over here in data value. So that's what that formula does. the replace function replaces data value type ID. It replaces this value with this value, so it's just like the replace function. The starts with function is it just adds starts with function. Let me just show that over here. So if it starts with n, then it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So that'd be a good way to separate data based on like what the first letter is. So pad concatenate, what it does is it pads a 0 if for 2 characters in total, and it pads it to the left of the total of 2 characters. So here's the pad concatenate. This number was actually just a 2 by itself, and now it's an O2, and this was 01 by itself, now it's 01. So location ID, that's the one it's working with. Location ID. So here's the 2 and the 1. So here's like the round square root. So if you're working with statistics and you need to work on like correlation and stuff like that, as you can see in my statistics video, this is an important formula. So here is like round square root, and so you could just do math with the formula. So here's those values, and then here is the count of words. So you can count the words in the question, and then date time today. It just returns date time for today, and then date time now returns like the date time that when you run the workflow. So here is another filter, and I did contains diabetes is true, and up here I have browse, and it just has the topic diabetes. All of these are diabetes because it's connected to the T, and then this browse is connected to the F, which is false. So this contains everything that isn't diabetes. So that's a good way to segregate the data, and then you can work with like random percentage samples and stuff like that to do like more statistics on that. So over here I have a multi-row formula. So let me see if I wrote anything for multi-row formula. Alright, so I basically wrote an expression down here, if is null. So it's basically, if the data value footnote is null, then the row minus 1 data value footnote, otherwise just keep the data value footnote. So what this does is it tests, let's see, where is that? I just got to find the data value footnote. So basically what it does is, before this expression was here, this record, this record, this record, this record, this record, they were all blank. So basically it reads, and then it sees like that this is blank, and then it fills in whatever the value is above it down. So it's a way to like fill down the data. It doesn't fill the first record because the formula is based on the record above it. So then row minus 1 data value footnote. And here's another multi-row formula where you do row minus 1 record ID plus 1. So that's a good way to just add a record ID over here. So notice how the value it starts counting up again, like once you get to a certain point. So here's like the record ID. It starts over at 1 right here. So once you reach a new year, it starts to count over. So it's a good way to if you like add like it's a good way to like segregate and group the data by the years. And then here is an uppercase, and yeah, so I'm gonna go over to the summarize tab. So here's an input data, and then here's an auto field. It's just auto assigns the data types to the fields to lower the amount of data needed to process stuff. It makes like year start. Here is a summarize. So with summarize, it basically this screen right here at the bottom, it's blank when you first put the summarize thing in. And then what I did is I click topic, and then I click here, and I click count, and then that appears down here. And then I click topic, and I click group by, and then that appears down here. And then I click data value alt, I click here, and I click average, ignore zeros. Notice how this data value alt says double. Initially, before you click run with this auto field tool, if you don't click run after you put the summarize tool down, initially it'll just say v string for all of these. But once you click run, the auto field tool will switch the number to a double, which lets you do the average, ignore zeros, or the average on summarize. And then here is the browse over here. Let me click run. So I click on browse, and what this does is it counts the amount each topic appears. So alcohol appears as a topic 27,000 times, and the average for that data is 48. So here it counts the topics, and then it group by the topic, so you get a total amount. And then here is just the average of that group. So if I were to do a pivot table in Excel without, and then I put like a count, and then I put a average, this is what that is. And then here is a running total, and it's based on group by year end and location abbreviation and data value alt. And I click run. So notice how you got location abbreviation. Let's do that again. Year end and location abbreviation. So 2001 has a lot of different years. It has 104, and each date appears about like twice on here. So this running total let's scroll all the way up to the top. So AK, Alaska, and 2001. So basically what this does is it does like a running total for that value. So the first one is 76.63, and the second one is 94.63. So the total for Alaska for the data value, see here it's 76.63 plus 18, so that's 94.63. So it adds up the data value right over here, and then it adds up this one, and it just does like a running total to 94.63. And then it starts over at the next date, because now it's Alabama, and there are only 2 Alabamas in 2001 because we're grouping by the location abbreviation and the year end. So we got Alabama, and then data value alt is 74.8. Just prove this out. 74.8 plus 17.19, So it's 91.99, which is there. So it's just a running total based on the groups. So it's a good way to aggregate data based on the groups and also include for other datas in that group. And then here is a weighted average. So I selected data value alt, high confidence limit. I left the weighted average as is. And then I selected topic. And over here I click browse. So you just got each of the 17 topics. And then now you have a weighted average based on the count and the numbers in each of the topics. So instead of being 48 as the average, now the weighted average is 15 when you account for the rest of the data, because weighted averages are different than averages. And then this last section of this book is you got the input data, drag from over here, input data, auto field, you got the filter by Florida equals FL. And then you have this select, which we select a few of the columns, and then you have a summary. And basically I did location abbreviation, click here, click group by, topic, group by, data value alt, average, ignore zeros, and then question ID count distinct. Distinct means you don't only want unique values of the question ID. And you just count if it's a distinct value. So here is the table. I put down from reporting. I did a basic table over here. And I dragged that down here. And I did basic. And I left everything as is. And I did a browse for the table. So I'm going to click run. So basically I want Florida. I want these columns. I want group by this location, this topic, with the average, and count the distinct. And then here is the report. So you got Florida, you got all the different topics, and then you have the average, and then you have the distinct count of the question ID. So that's how you could quickly summarize a basic table in Alteryx. And then here's another thing. So I did the same thing, except I did year-end 2015. And I grouped by the state acronym, the topic, like alcohol, diabetes, whatever disease. And then the data value alt, average, ignore zeros. And I did basic table, except over here I clicked bar graph, because now I just want, and I unselected average data value. And I clicked over here. So right now it says please wait rendering on my $5,000 PC. Here is the bar graph. So it shows, what does it show? It shows the average data value. One second, it's just rendering again. Takes a little bit on my $5,000 PC. So it shows the average data value for each of these topics for each of these states. And I mean, cancel LinkedIn. Yeah, so there are a lot of different tools up here that you could search. Like you could search like macro and macro input, macro output. And there are a few different tools that I didn't go over. You can click over here and go through more. Here's like the Python examples, Python SDK, HTML GUI library, text mining, machine learning. So I just went over the basic in-out data preparation, joining, and reporting, and the weighted average, summarize, running total. And I mean, that's all I really got out of this book. It was just a